Hey guys, MichaelBtheGameGenie here, and today I want to share my top 10 games for a system that a lot of people don't know I actually collect for, and I'm a huge fan of. The Sega Genesis.
Arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
16-bit sports action.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis does.
Get Joe Montana free, Pat Riley free, Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Collins free.
Genesis does.
What Nintendo?
Okay, I'm going to clarify really quickly. For those of you who haven't seen one of my top 10s before, I'm not necessarily saying that these are the 10 best games for the system based on their graphics, sound, whatever. I'm just saying these are the top 10 games in my Sega Genesis collection that I enjoy to play. I also want to make sure people understand that this is just games for the Sega Genesis, not including any of the attachments for the system, such as the 32X and my beloved Sega CD. With that out of the way, I have just a shade over 100 games for the Sega Genesis. While that's not a large portion of the complete Genesis library, I really like the games I have, and I enjoy playing them. And the 10 games I've picked out today are my absolute favorite to play. I hope you enjoy. Number 10. Castle of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse. Castle of Illusion was released in 1990 for the Sega Genesis. It's a fantastic Disney side-scrolling platformer and arguably the best game featuring Mickey Mouse. Minnie Mouse has been kidnapped by the evil witch Miserable. I know, what a great name. Mickey must embark on an epic journey to collect gems from Miserable's Castle of Illusion in order to build the Rainbow Bridge and rescue Minnie from having her youth stolen by the ancient witch. The gameplay is very interesting in Castle of Illusion, as your main mode of attack is a jumping butt bounce. It's really the only way I can explain it. This mechanic lends to some interesting platforming in some beautifully designed levels. The graphics are really well done and bring the Disney mascot we all know and love to life in this great game. Number 9. Truxton. I love vertical scrolling shooters, especially when they have great music, cool power-ups, vibrant visuals, and fantastic gameplay. Truxton, of course, has all these elements in spades. Taking place somewhere in space, an armada of Gaidans is invading the planet Baroga. Okay, so storyline and character development isn't something that I care about in a shmup. What I do care about is fun, and man oh man, is Truxton fun. You take your solitary fighter ship out of the cargo ship and into the fire quite literally, as Truxton at times can be considered a bullet hell game. Luckily, you can power up your ship by collecting P items. Once you collect 5 Ps, your ship turns into a screen destroyer, but if things are still too hectic, you can use a Taizujin bomb to clear the screen. That skull is just so cool. Truxton definitely is not an easy game, but it has just the right amount of challenge to keep you coming back again and again. Number 8. Golden Axe. 90s, everybody wanted to emulate Arnold Schwarzenegger's Conan the Barbarian character. In Sega's Golden Axe, released in 1989, you could do just that. Golden Axe is a side-scrolling hack-and-slash beat-em-up where you play as one of 3 legendary warriors. I always play as the Barbarian, of course. The game takes place in the fictional land of Uria, where an evil entity known as a Death Adder has taken capture of the royal family and their emblem, the Golden Axe. In order to save them, you will have to slice and dice your way through the Death Adder's minions. The gameplay is extremely fun, as in most arcade-style beat-em-ups, but the high fantasy world and characters make it stand out from the rest of the pack. I really enjoy stealing the enemy's steeds in the game, and they deal out massive damage. I also find the bonus stages between levels extremely amusing, as the weird elves or garden gnomes rob your magic while you are asleep at your campsite. Come back here, you creep. Number 7. Contra Hard Corps. It is just so strange seeing Contra on any other system than Nintendo, and Contra Hard Corps honestly is strange, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Contra Hard Corps was released on the Sega Genesis in 1994 and has the traditional Contra-style gameplay we all know and love. However, gone are the traditional heroes of the game and replaced with some very interesting characters. The game's story takes place approximately 5 years after the events of Contra 3: The Alien Wars. An elite team of commandos known as the Hard Corps are deployed to stop an unknown hacker who seeks to overthrow the government by developing weapons using a stolen alien cell. The game features some of the most unique and compelling level design I've ever seen in a Contra game. The graphics are really colorful and interesting. I'm not saying they're great, but it is very distinct from other games in the series. All in all, it is a fun but challenging game. They don't call it Contra Easy Corps after all. Number 6. Ghouls and Ghosts. Ghouls and Ghosts has been remade on multiple systems, and each game, while remaining fundamentally the same, is very different, and for my money, the Sega Genesis version is the very best. You once again play as Arthur in this great hack-and-slash platformer who is trying to restore the soul stolen by Lucifer. Your character can only take 2 hits per life, but you can aid your quest by getting an armor upgrade or weapon upgrade from one of the chests scattered throughout the levels. Be careful though, as some chests contain a magician who will turn Arthur into a duck. Hilarious! This game, like all the others in the Ghosts and Goblins series, is extremely challenging, but thankfully Ghouls and Ghosts has unlimited continues and a pretty decent checkpoint system. Since you have to play the game through twice to actually finish it, this is a godsend. Number 5. Castlevania Bloodlines. Another Konami game series of legend, Castlevania made a unique appearance on the Sega Genesis in Bloodlines. Much like Contra Hard Corps, it is truly a strange and unique addition to the game series, but we are all lucky to have it, as it is a fantastic game. If you have been following my channel for a while, you already know how much I like it, as I covered it in a full review. What really sticks out to me about Bloodlines is the fantastic visual presentation of the game. While it's true that the Genesis just didn't have the power of the SNES, Konami pushed the Genesis to the limit graphically here and made a beautiful and unique looking game. The level design is also some of the most interesting in the series, and the interactive backgrounds are really cool. I almost forgot the music, which is fantastic and some of the best on the system. The Castlevania series has some of the most memorable game music of all time, and Bloodlines does not disappoint.
Number 4.
Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Everybody I talked to about the Sonic series says Part 2 was their favorite and one of the best games on the Genesis. Sonic 2 was my first Genesis game, and the first game in the series that I finished, and it's no secret that I'm a big fan of it. There were a lot of changes from the first game as the graphics were improved and the levels were shortened to 2 stages in some areas. One change that I wasn't all that fond of was the addition of Tails. I found him more distracting than helpful, and to be honest, always secretly chuckled when his character died. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is some of the finest side-scrolling action platforming on the Sega Genesis, and it's a game I find myself coming back to again and again.
Number 3.
Shining Force. I wasn't a huge fan of role-playing games in the 16-bit era, but one game that caught my attention was Shining Force. Shining Force is a turn-based tactical role-playing game where a lead character takes a team of warriors, mages, healers, and knights into a number of battles. For those not familiar with the series, think of the better-known Final Fantasy Tactics. The story progresses between battles and tells the tale of the kingdom of Guardiana. Dark Soul is attempting to revive the Dark Dragon, and it's up to our hero and his party to seal away the Dark Dragon and restore peace to Guardiana. While not a quick pick-up and play game, I constantly find myself immersed in this immense and beautiful game.
Number 2.
Sonic the Hedgehog. This may come as a shock to most, but I actually prefer the original Sonic the Hedgehog to the popular sequel. While both games are outstanding action platformers, I just enjoy playing the first game more. The obvious reason, I guess, is the lack of Tails and his constant distraction, but that isn't it. I just think the original did so many things better. The boss battles, for example, with Dr. Robotnik just seemed larger and more enjoyable in this game. The music, oddly for me, was also more memorable, especially the iconic Green Hill Zone. And who can deny that the finger-wagging opening sequence wasn't just so much cooler? In my opinion, Sonic the Hedgehog was the action platformer that put the Genesis in most people's households, and wasn't outdone by any of its sequels. Well, at least on the Genesis.
Number 1.
Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage probably isn't going to be on anyone else's top 10 list at number 1, and I'll be honest, when I started making this list, I was surprised it ended up there. But looking back on my time with the Sega Genesis since I was a child, and I do not think one game spent more time in the system than Streets of Rage. I remember bringing this game home from the rental place, and for the first time feeling like I truly had an arcade experience at home. Graphically, it was very impressive for an early 16-bit game, especially using neon colors in the background that illuminate the cityscape. The music for the game is just unreal, and anyone who questions the Genesis sound capabilities should really sample the soundtrack. But at its core, a beat-em-up lives and dies on its gameplay, and Streets of Rage does everything right. If you own a Sega Genesis and have never played Streets of Rage, you owe it to yourself to try it. Not only is it the best beat-em-up on the system, it's one of the best in the entire genre. So guys, those are my top 10 games for the Sega Genesis. I know you're probably thinking it's a very bizarre list, but those are the top 10 games in my collection that I enjoy playing the most. If you have a different top 10, why don't you let me know? And feel free to leave a comment down below and let me know what your top 10 list would be. Anyways guys, this is MichaelBtheGameGenie. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Man, anybody who thinks that the Sega Genesis didn't have beautiful music, just play Streets of Rage, the original. Just play it. It's incredible.